go with it. Today is Monday, December 14th, 2020 at 9 a.m. We are located, or it's 9:01. I'm going to call this B County Commissioners Court regular term meeting to order. We are physically located at B County Commissioners courtroom, the B County Courthouse, room number 110, 105 West Corpus Christi St, Beeville, Texas 78102. If y'all would all please stand. Do we have prayer today? We do. Mr. Willow has just entered the room.
All right.
All right. Mr. Willow, I put you on the spot. Would you please lead us in a brief prayer?
I'd be happy.
Thank you.
The Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the glorious sunshine. Wonderful week ahead. Please be with the commissioners and the judges. They make prudent decisions about upcoming events. Guide them, bless them, and all the citizens of P County. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Y'all please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you all. Excellent. Thank you again, Mr. Willow. Do we have any visitors here in the courtroom today? Anybody wants to identify themselves? Thank you all for being here. We're going to move on to agenda item number 5, Commissioner's Court opening remarks.
I think it's my,
Yes, sir. Commissioner Scott, sorry, you have the floor.
really not much going on except regular stuff, I suppose, the road and bridge and some issues. As always, they take care of it. That's about it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I will keep my comments extremely short. We have the Executive Water Development Board got a call in at 9:30 for a conference call, and everything's going well in the precinct. I'll pass it to my colleague.
Thank you.
We just had a couple of potholes, and Road and Bridge did take care of them first. So Ray takes care of everything right away. I wanted to tell you, Commissioner Wynn, that I did pass by a 673, and I saw the yard that they were fixing up there. Wow, what a change! It's just,
It looks much better than.
yeah. So
Thank you.
that's all my comment there.
Thank you for that.
Well, I really hate to do this. I have a little more than Commissioner Beeville.
Sorry.
Again, I want to emphasize also Road and Bridge took care of many potholes throughout the county and my part of the field. Also cleaning up the brush piles. Had a couple of things with TxDOT, with people using the right-of-way of the TxDOT right-of-ways to pile brush and pile trash, burn trash. I want to thank the SO. They were instrumental in getting both of them taken care of when nobody else thought we were serious about it. I appreciate your deputies going out and taking care of that. Also, had a meeting earlier last week, with the new company coming into South Beach County, the Texas Blue Diamond Solutions. I just want to read just a small little bit of what they're doing, so everybody's aware of it. Texas Blue Diamond Solutions, LLC, which is actually TBDS, is a hemp manufacturing and extraction company with a single vision: introducing the best and cutting-edge technology in new hemp marketing in Texas. They will use the textile equipment they use for and I'm going to miss this one, decortication in Industrial Hemp International. They are licensed with the rights for chemical-free technology to extract raw hemp oil directly from the farmer's land. This technology uses water for an extraction medium. They acquired 328 acres right off of County Road 502 and 503. And I can't remember the owners of it. Commissioner Fadias can remember the Veranda family, and purchased the land and the house with options they're going to expand. They're going to pick up another 500 acres. They're going to be for one of the first operating facilities in Texas. The facility is surrounded by over 10,000 acres suitable for farming hemp. With the local farmers, they are in touch with the local farm bureaus. Both one of the members that I met with over there is from the Pawnee School District, but he's also a farm bureau agent over there. They're also going to have a wind generator It will not be the same ones that you guys see now with the blades rolling. It's more of a cylindrical slide that spins around and around. New technology. They are members of the Texas Hemp Coalition with over 87 farmers as current members. And they have a strong Texas legislative relationships with the state to do this. I have a packet which I will give each one of the court members as soon as I get Candy to do that. Met with them, some of the members, of course, I met with Jason Munoz, who is the CEO, and Bert Cantanilla, who is also the partner in this. He does the water extraction. I also met Mr. Norman Newton. Mr. Norman Newton, I consider him to be the cash flow guy. For his very serious questions about this, really interested in moving on. Also met with Joe Ochoa. He is with a coalition that can bring support business in also to support this company and companies around. And when I mean support, such as housing, transportation, things like this, they're looking at this to help us move along the way. It's very, very instrumental. There was a lot of heavy duty. Stephanie Silvas was there. Randy Stites was there. I was there. Wally was there. He is actually working for them now as the promotional manager for them. So everything looks really good for that part of the county. The big deal is getting with the farmers, getting them convinced. One of the main holdbacks, and I will tell you, one of the main holdbacks to that is crop insurance. If there's no crop insurance, nobody really wants to get into this. Was stated at that meeting that actually the United States is 10 years behind in this type of production. It's done all over the world. China being one of them. The company is bringing equipment from overseas to do this, state of the art. But that was a very instrumental meeting with them, meeting with them and talking to them. Still moving forward on it. The other thing, and that's that part there. The other one is I have several projects with TxDOT that I have sent off with Nick down in Karn City. He's kind of our connection guy. One of the things is on my agenda was to see about lowering the speed limit of State Highway 359, lowering it back down to 65 due to all the accidents that we've had in the previous years. I've talked to the state and local county deputies and DPS, and they would prefer it to be a little slower. And I know the people around Tynan and all up in there are the same way. Also asked the Farm Road 796, the one actually on the, don't quote me on east and west, I always say it's on the Skidmore side. There's been, I think, a couple of accidents there. Trying to see about putting some type of lighting, if possible, to warn them of. That's kind of coming from Mathis. That's kind of a blind corner to a certain extent. A lot of people haven't really noticed it until you're up on it. The other one is right into coming into Skidmore, and most of y'all know coming into there, it's 70 miles an hour right up to the stop sign. There's no slowing down. There's a little warning sign that you're coming up on it. I'm asking to put some signs there to slow the speed limit. As you notice, coming in on either side of 181, the speed limit is lowered to come into town to introduce it. Also, on that side of town, there is a small couple of housing residential areas right there as you're coming in. That would also help them coming out on the highway. See that. Last thing was I asked for the school crossing update. They're supposed to be putting a school crossing for Skidmore County. In his response, of course, he said he apologized that it's already hung up in his outbox for some reason. But they will be doing a speed check and for the reduction of the speed. They're going to look into. I've answered a question he's asking about. They're going to run a crash analysis there in Tynan, which is all part of their studies to see about putting in signs and things like that. The other is the one coming into Skidmore again. That will be followed under the speed study and everything else. The last one, to avoid project delays, and I'll just read this off. We have ordered the steel poles that will provide to the contractor to avoid 18 to 20-week manufacturing delays once the project goes to bid. Poles should be coming in the same time in December, or sometime in December. follows up. They will be letting this project out in January and February, so, these dates should be good as long as COVID does not impact the manufacturing facility of our homes. So that should be somewhere around January, February, that letting, look at it for like a month or so, and then they'll issue it out. So possibly by next school year, we should have what we need to have a safe crossing. I apologize, I was a little lengthy, but I think I have covered everything that I have.
Thank you, Commissioner
very
Hager,
much.
no take bets. No, that was excellent. And, you know, it's a good point, just lately, and if I could just, follow on what you're saying and give a shout out to our community leaders and volunteers that, on the business development side, that have been working overtime. After Thanksgiving, before Christmas, chasing down, some really, really strong potential leads that'll make a meaningful impact, positive impact to our community locally and to the county as a whole. So, it's always good to hear everything that's going on and all the good work and cooperation between the various governmental entities, including the BDA and the BAP and the city of Beeville, the college, the ISD, the county, so on and so forth. I know I've left out, some people, not intentionally. So, there has been a, scheduling, difficulty, as a result of unforeseen circumstances. We are currently, our district judges currently, our district court is currently pre-qualifying jurors, this morning, this afternoon, tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, and Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon. We've got a pool of jurors that are over in the expo just waiting to be, pre-qualified. No district judge is available, so I'm going to go do it. That's the good news, bad news. You may hate me. You know, but it's nice too. You know, I believe you're the senior commissioner, so, my public announcement is that I'm going to be stepping down from this meeting for a short period of time, and I'll be popping back over. I don't think it'll take that long. I do apologize for this, and for the last minute notice as well. It wasn't intentional. It's just, things have been quite hectic lately. So if nobody objects, I will take my leave. We'll hand the reins over to Commissioner Salazar. Commissioner, I have notes on this agenda on page 5. I think the only one that is somewhat time sensitive, if the will of the court exists after I leave, to move agenda item number 13 to 9:30. We've got about 20 minutes left, but my apologies.
Then we have the county clerk with Dr. Fong. She needs to move that right after the 9:30.
Okay, that's also on
Unless we can get to her before 9:30.
all of this is, that's fine. So I'll leave that with Commissioner Salazar. Do you want my agenda, sir?
I got it.
Okay. Thank y'all so much. I apologize.
No problem.
Thank you, guys. I'll be back.
Just for a little deduction in your pay, sir.
Yeah.
We're not,
The
I
shine is
Volunteer for
wearing
another
off.
committee or something, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, remember when you leave the room.
Item number 6, public comment. Anybody in the public wants to say anything? And not hold your peace? Okay. All right. Item number 7. The following items are administrative nature. Commissioners Court has been furnished documentation on each item, and all such items will be acted upon one vote without being discussed separately unless discussed by Commissioners Court or the county judge. Move to approve.
I'll second, but I have some questions.
So do I. Go ahead.
Well, I think basically it deals with, with the tax office in the alignment process. I think I have just a few questions to that, but I don't think she's here to answer those. I can approve them. I don't have a problem.
I have a little bit of
Okay.
information about them.
All right.
I know Michelle came and spoke to me about the change, her job description that she's been working on and adjusting. And so that's why she submitted these change of statuses, because she's moving job duties around. And so with those adjustments, she's making these salary changes, which is all within her budget. But again, she is pulling money from her chief deputy position to it for these adjustments, going to her auditing clerk and her lead on motor vehicle.
Titles.
Well, no, there shouldn't be title changes.
Not titles, I mean, the title officer, the one that does the, title.
Okay, the title lead, motor vehicle lead is what that, position is called.
April,
So,
did you try to look at some of the descriptions that we did in the salary committee to see if they were like class 1, 2, 3, or 4? Or?
no,
No.
no, she didn't do any of that. I know that she talked to Ms. Warnick a little bit about,
Where they would fall, like under,
but,
like clerk 1, clerk 2, clerk 3, clerk 4, where they would fall, so we could,
You talked about it, Michelle, though?
yes.
Yeah.
She didn't discuss that. She just told me that she was gonna, at the time that she came to talk to April, she explained to me that she was gonna do away with it actually, and a motor vehicle lead and have a counter lead.
okay.
But that was at the time she wasn't gonna have a chief deputy.
Right.
So it looks like
And so
she
that's-
changed everything.
Yes,
So
and
I
that
can't
is,
speak for her.
none of that is, going forward because of the additional research she had. So there's no job description changes or changes of title. It's just the salaries that you're seeing. That's all that you're seeing, and then just change of statuses. So it is up to the court if you want to approve the, adjustments in the salary.
Are we gonna have to come back and adjust it again, or?
Well, that's up to the court. I mean, that's,
This is now, if something comes up later, we'll have it later.
and I told her it's well within her, office discretion to change her job descriptions for sure. But, as far as, salaries, that's y'all's decision if you wanna change
Well,
those.
I think that was my main question. I noticed everything stayed the same. You just added monies to different divisions, which in the past, before the salary committee, that was done throughout the county. It was done in the tax office, it was done across the hallway and upstairs and things like that. And I'm not sure that if this is not gonna show up when we sit down and meet for next year's salary committee, and we find out that now that they're above where they need to be, and then we turn around and go, or they're wherever they fall, because we spend a lot of time, taking a lot of time with Ms. Warnick's trying to find some type of a job description, and the committee itself has spent a lot of time going over these for this purpose, so we can at least kind of equal out everything. And I know it's very tough to keep people here.
It was done, and I think it wasn't really appreciated too much by the court, but what was happening was certain departments had the ability to do it because somebody would leave, and then you do the pay increases to their employees, and other departments never had nobody leave, so they wouldn't see that kind of increase under that. But by the same token, unfortunately, like Madam Auditor just said, it's within the law.
It's in their budget.
Within their little discretion. And we cannot, we can personally not like it, but can we do something about it?
Remember, we researched it heavily, and the legislature said that's their budget.
Well,
Period.
and I've stated since coming on board, I've stated, when I hand you your money, as far as whatever, that's yours. We stated that to each department. Every department knows that's their money, as long as they don't come ask for more, which we have definitely told them, well, you're not getting more, this is what you're getting, so you make do with what you have. We just had to watch what they did with the salaries, because we were watching them get.
It's okay now, but 2 years from now, or 3 years from now, when the changes come, they're all,
We'll be back where we started.
we're back to square one.
And so just so you know, a portion is going to her auditing clerk, which she feels has the most authority and, oversight in her office, because she does all of her accounts, and that's what she takes care of. And so I think that was the driving force, well, that's what she told me, is the driving force in moving, the salaries around, because she felt like, that position was taking on, more of a load. And she was taking some of it off of that chief deputy position, which is over her counter.
I think if you were having a salary committee is a moot point.
Right.
Elected officials can.
Well, no, but, no, we've done over
Yeah, no, for
130
sure,
people. We've
for
moved
sure.
130
Yeah.
people off that list.
What
Yeah.
I'm saying is, the elected officials still have that ability, like, if he does, to increase temporary employee salary when somebody leaves.
Within the budget.
Within the budget. So, I said that. The one I have was, on Mike Willow. Do you?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yes, and that one
there's
is,
an item in 10, reference to that.
Yes.
It's also in the changes status.
yes, so I don't know if you want to pull that one and the
Right.
LIT
I
also.
want to pull that, and just the question I was asked, the funding for creating a new position, was it budgeted during the
It's-
process of a budget, or?
It's within the line item, the transfer line item to the CARES fund. There's a $200,000, budget that we placed in 12,700,977, that a portion of that is available and can fund this position.
What will happen when that's gone?
Well, no,
this is September.
the position that is to be discussed in item, what is it? 10, it is just until September 30th.
But then we've already created a new position for another employee.
But the way it's worded is an emergency COVID mitigation
So once
position.
that's over, it goes back to what it is right now.
Well, it just is it just
Or retired.
dissipates. You're right.
Yeah, or he,
And of course, this will come up in budget, and that's what I told the judge.
Unless we get more carriage.
Or we'll just see where we're at, especially during budget, and that's something that the judge had mentioned. He said, okay, well, what are we doing after September 30th? And I said, well, that's not being discussed now. That is to wait until budget, and we'll see where we're at that time. But this is just until September
So the
30th.
way I do it, right now, there's two full-timers. Right now, we're gonna have 3 now. Is that correct? One, this one's out, and it's gonna run out.
The September 30th.
Then it's easy to make somebody full-time. It's harder to make that person, after they're full-time, back to part-time. After this runs out, are we still gonna?
No.
3 full-time positions?
No.
Ma'am, what I plan on doing was to retire this February.
No.
However, because of the CARES, because of all this that's going on, I want to stay.
In the conversation. I should have made a call.
No.
Yeah.
In the conversation.
That's why,
I called the question on the, okay. Any other questions, guys? That's it, that was my.
On all those
Okay,
changing
and,
statuses? Yes.
For the horses, we'll just hold on number.
Okay,
are
so,
you gonna pull it?
Yeah, we're gonna pull that and then approve it on the item number 10. Yes.
and also the LIT that goes with it.
Yes.
Those are the 2 items. Did y'all want to discuss the financials that are submitted?
Is there anything to stick out?
No, it's October, so we're very early, we're in line right now.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
Second.
No more questions, all those in
We're
favor say,
pulling the.
yes, we are, with the exception of Michael. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor say aye. We're gonna go in, jump over to item number 18, adoption of county clerk operations procedures, copy of policy effective January 1st, 2020. Madam Clerk?
Good morning, gentlemen. Nicole Clark Gonzalez, the county clerk. I gave you all a little packet. I am trying to adopt a new office policy for my office that would have any entities besides, of course, my office to have access as far as having copiers in my office. Right now, I do have a couple of copiers in my office that belong to title companies. In the past, they have been allowed to have those copiers in my office, and as long as they were providing paper, they were able to make free copies, basically, of records that they were obtaining from my office. I just don't feel that this is fair to the taxpayers. It's also caused a lot of additional work to my employees, especially with COVID. A lot of the title companies, when COVID first hit, we were trying to be very understanding and helpful, and we were doing a lot of the research for them, so that way they would not have to come to the courthouse. But of course, now that we fully are open back up, other title companies are coming in and doing that research. There are still a few individuals that are faxing us requests, wanting us to just print copies and fax it back to them. Again, like I said, I still feel like this is fair to the taxpayers of the county. I have, created the office policy, that would state that all entities have to remove their copiers from my office. I've spoken with other clerks, throughout the state of Texas. This is actually something I've been working on for almost a year now. I've also included Attorney General opinions in the situation. We should not have those copiers in my office, period. Also, I've included a quote that if these title companies want to purchase, the document, so that way they can just print from their office that are not in the Vanguard system already, they'll have that capability. Because I do know that it's challenging sometimes to have to climb the ladders, to pull those big books, to make copies when they need to. So I've been, like I said, working on this for several months, trying to make it as painless as possible, but I also want to make it as fair as possible as well. I've given all the documents to Mr. Knight, and he's approved and looked at everything as well.
Madam Clerk, the one thing that you said that strikes home, if you will, the Attorney General's ruling says it can't be done.
No.
So we don't really need to go past that, and I'll make a motion to approve.
Yes, sir.
I'll second it.
Any other comment? And not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Okay, we have, item 13 at 9:30, it is
27.
9:27. Okay, 9:27. Okay, let's go to number 8. I believe we're number 8.
Number 8,
Yeah.
Commissioner, number 8 is gonna be pulled.
Oh, it's gonna be full?
Well,
Okay,
let's pull it.
pull it.
Okay.
Number 8.
Item number 8 on the agenda, I request to be pulled until we get further information on this from Benny Jenkins, DPM, and Turner. I'm gonna table this.
Okay, have a motion to table, is there a second? Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say so. Item number 9, request to use the county courthouse on January 1st, 2021 for swearing-in ceremony.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say same. We'll skip that one. Okay, item number 11, electrical line easement and right-of-way between Santa Patricia Electric Corporation and Lee County.
Okay, that is at the mineral yard, and basically what that's doing is allowing the, Santa Patricia Electric to put a pole and align the new, compactor. And I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion approved and second, any other discussion? And now all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say same. Item number 12, request from Upring Head Start for authorization to place a 264 square foot modular building at 300 South Sixth Street in Skidmore. That's it.
That is in my precinct, and there we go.
We're gonna run it.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Roxana Garza with Upper Head Start. The
You got 1
request,
minute.
I'm sorry,
You got 1 minute.
1 minute. Okay, so the request is just to place a modular building, 264 square feet on, the premises that we currently, lease with, for Beach County, and it would be right here, what we're thinking, adjacent to the building that we currently have. And if y'all approve, then I would go forward to get information about moving the building to that location.
Does it comply with all the setbacks and everything else on that?
Well, that's what I need, before I do anything, I need to find out if y'all approve it, then we'll do any kind of research on plumbing, electrical, and all of that. Because it does have a restroom, AC unit, and it's supposed to be,
You need to make a motion, Mr. Hager.
I made a motion to accept this.
Second.
I have a motion and second, and thank you for coming,
Yes.
and good luck.
thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say same.
Okay, John, we need to get our conference calls on, so. What do we need?
Okay, we're gonna go to item 13, Texas Water Development Board Early Warning and Flood Study.
Yeah, we're just gonna
call
call
the
the number. You can go back to this.
You have the number that we're gonna call?
You can go back to that at the end.
Oh, they're gonna call in?
Call in here.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
we give this number.
Oh, yeah, I have it prepared. 9,000, what did you do?
9,000 is the group number, yes. And then you want to get
Please enter the conference PIN number.
the admin PIN or you want the regular PIN?
After the tone, say your name and then press the pound key. Commissioner's Court. Thank you.
Okay, this is Big County Commissioners Court. Who's on the line, please?
Hi, this is Brian McMath with the Texas Water Development Board. I do governmental relations, and I'm joined by several additional Texas Water Development Board staff, which may include James Bronikowski. He's the manager of our Regional Flood Planning Division. Kathy Hopkins, she's the manager of grant coordination within Flood Science and Community Assistance. And she's joined by Ivan Ortiz and Robert Reynolds, both of staff with the grant coordination division in the Flood Science and Community Assistance. I believe there's some additional attendees on the call, so I'll let them introduce themselves.
Okay, if we would, let me introduce the court and then some parameters that we're going to follow. We have Commissioner Carlos Salazar, Precinct 1. I'm Commissioner Dennis DeWitt, Precinct 2. Our county judge will be back with us in a little while, George Morrow. We have Precinct 3 Commissioner Sammy Farias, Precinct 4 Commissioner Ken Haggard. Our county auditor is here, April Cantu, and our county clerk representative is here, Ms. Hope Edmondson. And what we'd like to do, instead of spending time introducing everybody, when they talk, if they will say who they are and their title, that would work fine. We also have our engineering firm with ICE Engineering on the line in case there's some questions. The reason we're setting this up, we have some questions as Commissioner's Court about these two projects, and this would be a chance to vet those questions and get the answers directly from the Water Development Board. And I will turn this over to my two colleagues, Commissioner Haggard and Commissioner Farias. I think they have some questions for you, and y'all can field them as appropriate as who in your department, but ask them to identify themselves and their title for the clerk, because this is a public hearing. Mr. Farias.
This is on the two,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
This is Commissioner Farias. My concern is right now, at this time, I'm not saying the ideas are bad or anything. I just don't think that B County is ready and wanting to commit any of our departments, any of the hours that we have to commit to make these things go forward.
And this is Commissioner Haggard. Yeah, some of the concerns I had, again, also, the hours spent, that's one part, that's a minor part for me. The other part is the equipment that we're gonna use, is gonna be in locations where they're not.
James Bronikowski
Is now in the conference.
And what I'm trying to say is that most of these, on the second part, the locations of the monitors are not going to be in a really truly secure, what I consider secure area. Also, the type of equipment used has, and I come from an oil field background and a refinery background, and I've dealt with both of the units, the types of units, not these units particularly, as far as the maintenance of them, repairs, and repair cost. Replacement cost was a huge issue, and in case one of them happens to be destroyed or stolen or whatever. And the other part is how much training, how much of this, and the maintenance side of it. So those are my concerns.
Commissioner Salazar, do you have any concerns you'd like to?
I got no concerns, but in reference to what the two commissioners just stated, and hours put in, what they're referring to, and I'm sure you understand this, sir, is the in-kind that the county has the ability to utilize to help offset the cost. That's what I got.
And if you would, the two projects that we're discussing is the master drainage planning study and the flood early warning system. And I think their main concerns are with the flood early warning system as to the stability of the equipment and the cost, and also the number of hours that have to be put in. And if we can't do the hours, we'll be liable for dollar amount. And we'll turn it over to Water Development Board to field those questions.
All right, again, this is Brian McMath with Governmental Relations at the Texas Water Development Board, and I'll let our staff who is working on these projects chime in as they see fit. Kathy, Robert, Ivan, or James.
Thank you, Brian. This is Ivan. For the record, for the Commissioner's Court, this is Ivan Ortiz with the Texas Water Development Board. I'm a grants coordinator. I think what I have on the list is that y'all are concerned about the hours and the location of the flood early warning system placement. I don't think the exact location has been determined for the flood early warning system placement. I think as part of the engineering analysis that will occur prior to the installation, the engineering team that the community has selected will be tasked with determining the best location for the flood early warning system equipment per the application, including selecting areas that will make them resistant to flooding. Maybe how that will be addressed and when they will be addressed could be more readily addressed through the community's engineering staff or their consultants. But our understanding is that those locations are still to be determined, and sites will be selected that will be appropriate for their use. But that's the only information we have on as far as location at this stage of the game. And as far as the hours of what the community is able to provide, again, yes, the local match can be provided in kind hours through the community, and I imagine it will be up to the community and their consulting staff to determine what type of hours will be required for the project. Thank you, sirs.
We have a question from a commissioner. Commissioner Frias, please.
Mr. Ortiz, Commissioner Farias, once we own these pieces of equipment, we own them, right? We have to maintain them. We have to hire somebody to keep them, update them, and repair them, and what have you, correct?
Yes, sir. Again, this is Ivan Ortiz. Yes, the maintenance and operations and maintenance will be the responsibility of the community at costs that will be outside of this grant program. Should the equipment be damaged or vandalized or something like that, you would not be obligated to replace that equipment. It would be up to the community to decide if y'all wanted to replace it and continue to use it. But it won't be a grant requirement that equipment be monitored, be in place for a minimum amount of time.
Mr. Ortiz, something that I'd like to clarify too. I was speaking with the Water Development Board a few days ago about the low to mod income requirements, and I was informed that those did not play in these grants at all. Is that valid information, correct?
This is Ivan Ortiz. How funding works is a little bit outside of my purview. I'm working more with the grants and getting the contracts executed and monitoring the grants. But as far as funding, perhaps we have somebody else on from the Texas Water Development Board that can help answer how the loan and grant portions were determined. Brian, do you know if we have anybody that can help with those type of questions?
I am not aware. If anyone, unless someone on the call can answer those questions, I would guess that would be the follow-up.
Are we talking about, I'm sorry, this is Robert Reynolds with the Texas Water Development Board. I'm a grants coordinator as well. I'm working on the same thing as Kathy and Ivan are. When we're talking about the loan portion, are we talking about the Fuse project?
What we're talking about is the determining the match. We had originally thought it was based upon our low to mod income in B County, and I think, Robert, during my discussion, you determined that it was not, that it's based on another formula. And that's why the 3 grants that we were approved for all had different types of matching.
Okay, well, first, there is no loan component part of this. It's just a grant and an in-kind. As far as how it was determined, I'm gonna have to research that because I can't remember specifically that conversation. Was it in an email or were we, was it me and you talking over the phone?
I think we were talking over the phone because I made the comment that, the grant portion was a percentage here and a percentage there, and it was all different. And it was my understanding it was based on low to mod income in the county, and that had changed. And I think we came around that it was not based on low to mod income. So if I'm misstating that, I apologize beforehand.
No, I don't know if that's the case, but I don't remember that. I don't remember having that conversation, but I do take notes and I'll research that.
Well, and it's not critical. It was just a comment. That's all.
Okay, that's fine. No, but yeah, I when I heard Ivan mention loan, there is no, and I've been working on this. There is no loan component to this, and y'all know that. So,
right. We understand.
Yeah, the whole issue is the in-kind contribution.
Commissioners, additional questions? No. We have no other questions at this time. Do y'all have any information for us about how long these projects, the time limit that we might have if we enter into these projects? Well,
I'm sorry. My name is Robert Reynolds. Again, with the Texas Water Development Board. I believe I sent you an email that included some comments from one of our attorneys, Kendall Kowal.
Yes.
And she said there are no real time concerns. She addressed all the questions that you gave me in the email. The only concern she had was if there was a loan, and there isn't one. So unless Kathy or Ivan wants to chime in, as far as I can tell from the conversations I've had with you, there are no time concerns that are critical.
Commissioners, this is Ivan Ortiz again for the record.
Yes, sir.
When we put the contract together, should all the paperwork go through successfully, what we will ultimately do before we start work is we'll enter into a contract between the Water Development Board and the community. And in that contract, we will build in a schedule which will include an expiration date on that contract based on the schedule that the community provided us and let us know how long, and the information they provided as to how long the project would take. As the project progresses, should we determine that more time is needed, things come up all the time. For example, we could get hit with another flood and the community could, have to use a few months responding to that flood and take a little bit of time off of this project. If that happens, we can always extend the contract to add more time to complete the project successfully. Thank you.
Okay, our county judge is with us now, and let's see if Judge Morrill has some questions for the Water Development Board.
I don't, sorry.
He says he does not at this time. I don't think the court, Madam Auditor, do you have any questions for the?
No, sir.
Madam Clerk, have you got what you need as far as your record?
I do.
Water Development Board, Robert, Brian, I think we're complete here. I can't tell you how much I appreciate y'all taking the time to do this. It has enlightened some things and answered some questions. And what we'll do, we have it on our agenda to make a vote here in a minute, but we're going to discontinue the conversation before we do that. And do y'all have any other questions of us?
No, sir.
Water Development Board. Nothing further from us. I hope this information was helpful, and if there's any additional information, follow-up type questions, feel free to reach back out to us. We're glad to help.
And thanks again. We really appreciate y'all taking the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay. Thank you all, Judge, Commissioners. Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Judge, we're on item number 13. Did you read the item again, please? Oh, you need the agenda?
I'm good, or
Yeah, go ahead.
do you mind? Okay, thank you, Commissioner Salazar, for covering for me. Agenda item number 13, Texas Water Development Board Early Warning and Flood Study Projects.
Gentlemen, we just had a chance to query let me get my map, Water Development Board. what this item entails, the next step we have to take is to send out certified return receipt letters to entities in the county, school districts, one thing and another, advising of what we're doing. The cost is not great, but it's the first initial cost that we have, and, that's why I put it on the agenda. What I'm looking at, these projects are important, but the financial stability of B County is more important at this point in time. And what I'm gonna ask for is a vote, 2 different votes on these items. And the first motion I'm gonna make is to discontinue going forward on the master drainage planning study. I'll make that motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second, any further discussion? I'd just like to say that, I appreciate, I know that we've been split on this project from the beginning, but I appreciate everybody on the Commissioner's Court with allowing it to move forward to really flesh it out. I think it's a very valuable service, for us, and it's a very valuable service that, Ivan and everybody at ICE was willing to perform, of course, and you as well, Commissioner DeWitt, for running all the trips. Thank you. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes without exception. Thank you,
The
gentlemen.
second item is the early warning system, and Judge, if you'll grant me some latitude here, I'm going to not make a motion, but defer to my colleagues to the left to make a motion on this item.
I make a motion that we do not foresee going into this project at this time.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Once again, my comments from the previous motion carry over to this. I appreciate everybody's time and effort in trying to see if this would work for us. There's no further discussion. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. Just a couple quick, housekeeping matters. Thank you, Commissioner Salazar, for covering, for me. I do appreciate that very much. I won't do it again this year, I promise. Did we work out agenda item number 18 as well?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
You might tell them which ones are.
Okay, we should do item number 10.
we're back on to 10?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you all very much. Agenda item number 10, creation of new emergency position titled COVID mitigation under the Department of Risk Management. Mr. Willow is,
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Go back to the other one.
Okay, yes. and
Well, it was included in there, I mean, with the approval of, that item, it approves the change of status in the LIT.
Motion passes without exception. Y'all discussed this in the change of status.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm sorry I wasn't here to
Sorry, you'll
explain
see a
my
little
thought process.
deduction in your pay.
Now we're in 14.
Candy, we're gonna have to override that.
Mike gets that reduction.
We've got number 14 first.
Okay, so now we're on 14. Okay. Agenda item number 14, road use and master road repair agreement between B County and Blackjack Creek Wind Farm LLC. Commissioner Haggard, is this your?
Yes, it is, and, I have, Mr. Rich Saunders here. This contract basically has been looked at by both, the attorney and the judge. It mimics, Commissioner DeWitt's road agreement that we looked at, with a few changes other than just language versus, nothing stands out. So I, would like to make a motion to approve this. Go, sir.
I have a motion.
Yes, signature still has Moreno and,
Oh, did it?
the very last page. I know that.
Subject to those Scrivener
Yeah,
corrections, which is fine, those aren't substantive. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
it has the county clerk is incorrect and the judge.
Yes.
No big deal.
Those are all Scriveners, yeah, they're not substantive. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you,
Thank you,
gentlemen.
Commissioner.
Agenda item number 15, wind farm investment zone and tax abatement in South B County. Commissioner Haggard, you have the
This one falls under me also, and this time I'm gonna have Mr. Saunders come up and give us kind of an explanation. I know we're still trying to get some response back from TAC, and I'm sure we'll get that very quickly, so there are things we need to look at. Mr. Saunders.
Thank you, Judge, Commissioners. I represent a company called RWE Renewables America. We're one of the 5 largest renewable energy companies in the world. We probably know us best in the local area. We were the ones who did the two projects down by Taft, which was 2008, so the first project along the coast of Texas. Right now, we have the largest amount of capacity of wind power in Texas. We have 18 or 19 operating projects, 3 others in construction. Closest to you is the Refugio County project that you saw come up over the last year or so with ours. What we've been looking at is an expansion of that project itself, a little bit larger, and we have 20,000 acres leased in B County on the Burke Hollow property itself. So singular landowners, it might be 2 landowners maximum for the project itself. The project itself spans both B County and Refugio. We also span 3 different school districts. We already have a Chapter 313 agreement with Tyne and Skidmore. We're working on one with the Beeville ISD, and we also have an agreement with Woodsboro. We currently have a tax abatement agreement with Woodsboro for the project itself. But our base case for the project would be that we would preferentially like to have the majority of the project, or vast majority of the project, in B County. Size of the project, it's a 240 megawatt project. What does that mean on the tax base? That's probably the most important thing for you. Probably about $260, $270 million tax base increase. Timing on the project is pretty interesting. We, having gotten some of the abatements in place already, we are prepared to move forward with the project in the first quarter of next year, and have it fully finished by December 31st, 2021. So when you look at it, the January 1st, 2022 snapshot would show the entire tax value on the books themselves. So what we're asking you to consider is a tax abatement, just a market level tax abatement for the project itself, so that we can value the turbine sites in B County as we do with Refugio itself. Currently, like I said, 20,000 of the acres are in Refugio County. Any questions?
Could you explain for me what market level tax abatement means to you?
So what we've been seeing from Refugio and a couple of the others, so every one of our projects that we have in Texas has a Chapter 312 agreement on it. And market level these days is somewhere in the 65% level. And that takes, there's been a few different ways. There are some counties that prefer it to be just a straight tax, 65% abatement, 35% goes into the tax roll. What we've seen far more frequently is that it's a combination of a tax abatement and a pilot payment. As an example, the Refugio County one is a tax abatement and then a pilot payment of, I believe, $2,000 per megawatt. The rationale, if I understand it correctly, is by having a pilot payment, you are not subject to the depreciation of the equipment itself as much. So if you think about it, whenever you put something new in, depreciates over time period, so you have the largest tax revenue at the beginning, slowly decreasing. Their interest was to stabilize that a little bit more. And if you have a straight pilot payment, you stabilize part of it. And so what I've seen is a balance of trying to do 50% going into the pilot payment, 50% potentially into the normal tax fund. So that's what we've seen in the area itself. I will tell you that philosophically, we have a couple different things about abatement. Number one is we never want to get the very best abatement. We also don't want to be at the other end of the spectrum itself. I think our goal is to be market level, because one of the things we want to demonstrate to you is, as you probably know, these projects are very long term. The life of this project is 30 years. So when we go into a community, number one, we want to be accepted by them, and we use the abatement as kind of a way of understanding whether they're welcome. We're going to spend $260 million that we need 30 years to get our return. We want someone who wants us in their county itself. I think the The other thing has always been that we make such a huge investment, we want to become part of your community itself. And I think one of the things I can tell you is you can probably talk to some of the other judges and districts. I will tell you, we're building 2 projects in Willoughby County right now, and have built 2 others. Certainly would have you reach out if you have to the Imperial County Judge, Mr. Blackjack, get a feel for the company itself. We're truly here, you know, to make an investment in your county and be here for a very long time.
Mr. Summers, is this investment that you're gonna make here, is this decision that we make here, is this a make or break? If we don't give it to you, you won't come, or you will come?
So we have a number of sites for the turbines themselves. I would say that, would we come? Potentially. Would it entice us to put a vast majority of the project in your county? Yes. So right now we have an abatement with Imperial County. We get a similar one from B County. When we do the economics, all we look at is what is each turbine's value. And the abatement does have an effect. And abatement is a necessary item to entice us to come into your district or into your county.
It'd be
But
nice.
But would it make or break this?
So
Is that's a yes or no?
would it make or break it? So the answer is it could, because there's a financial impact on the project itself. If we didn't get something from B County, what would have to happen is obviously we start moving everything we possibly could over to Imperial County itself to try and maximize the economic value. In our company, the idea is there's a hurdle. Just like everybody else, there's a cost of money. And we need to prove, as developers, we need to prove that we're going to be bringing the returns to the company. The returns these days are fairly tight, as you probably know. Power prices are down, usage is down. You know, these kind of decisions do impact where we put a project. Would the project go forward? I'm pretty confident we'll go forward with the project because we have some things in place already, the Woodsboro Chapter 313, the Mercurial 312. That gives a lot of financial credibility to the project.
Well, with the time span of the abatement and the level of depreciation, by the time we look at the end result there, you know, I just don't see the abatement. And I don't know, I'll pass it on to the judge of the other commissioners.
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
I understand number of turbines better than I do megawatts. How many turbines are we talking about?
So in this case, it would be 50 turbines. So what you see over there right now in Refugio are 2.2 megawatt turbines. These are 4.8 megawatt turbines. So the capacity would be greater than double. So there's less turbines, slightly larger projects. I think the one thing that I'm sorry.
How many in B County tentatively? That's the question.
So we have a number of cases. If we had equivalent financial basis, we would look to having 42 of them in B County itself, between 42 and 36. So the majority of the projects would be in B County if we had the same financial impact on the project site.
At any time, I mean, you said 4.8 megawatts. At any time, can the grid tell you, hey, shut 30 of these down because right now we have all these operating?
So the answer is, it is occurring right now in West Texas. It's basically because the transmission system cannot handle the turbines coming on board. We haven't seen it along the coast, and I will actually tell you right now that out of all Texas, this is one of the best places to put up any kind of generation, whether it's solar, wind farm, or anything else. Why? Number one is your in the area needs are going up, and I don't know if you know, but there's been some transmission upgrades in the area. There's even more coming up. So if you look at Texas as a whole, this is a very, very stable area. And we have not had any of our projects curtailed in this area. So we have a project up in Bay City. We have the one in Refugio over by Woodsboro. We have the two down by Corpus Christi, and, to the best of my knowledge, I have not ever seen any of them curtailed at all because of transmission. And, you know, I'd like to go back on one point, you know, the interesting thing about a project like ours is it's a 30-year project. That's what we need to get a return. And I know the abatements run 10 years, but that also indicates that these projects will last for 20 more years on the books. And as you probably know, once the depreciation comes down to a certain level, the revenue component takes over. So we don't diminish this to nothing. It obviously comes down over a period of time and then stabilizes based on the revenue component for a tax appraisal purpose. The other thing I'd like to bring up is, we talk about 30 years. The reality is that the technology continues to move further and better. And we've actually gone back to some of our older projects, and older are like 10, 15-year-old projects. And we've actually taken down some of the equipment, specifically the turbines themselves, the blades, the generators, and placed new ones. And what that did is it started the clock again. And so that project is now a longer-term project. It's 45-year time frame.
When you say you're going to a 4.8 megawatt tower, how tall are those towers?
So the tip height will be about 600 feet off the ground. The one that you see over here, Everett is about 498 feet. I'm not sure what turbine Avangrid, 48-year-old area, but I suspect that it was a fairly tall turbine, probably 100-meter towers, which are 300 feet, and then the tip heights are somewhere between, 540 to 600 some feet. It's the new state of the art. The idea has been small or less turbines and larger capacity so that you take up less ground out of productive usage. So a project like this, even though everything we're looking at is ranch land, it will probably only take out a maximum of 40 to 50 acres total out of productive use. They're mostly going to be ranch roads. The turbine pads are very small, quite frankly.
How many jobs are we?
We anticipate creating somewhere around 8 to 12 jobs. And what we did on the previous phase, we sourced it from the local community. One of the criteria that we have on our operations is that the people live within a certain distance and time from the site themselves. And logically, I will tell you, we want someone from the local area, because one of the things we do is when we take a technician and we train them in our manner, we spend somewhere about $120,000 per technician to bring them up to speed. If these aren't people who want to live in that community and raise their family in that community, and we have to continue changeover, it's very expensive. So we've tried everything we possibly can to try and entice people from the local area to actually become wind technicians. If they know the area, they're comfortable living in it, those are the people we want.
One thing that came to light this last year, a turbine caught fire near Taft. That may or may not have been one of y'all.
It was not ours.
Anyway, the concern was nobody knew who to call or how to get a hold of anybody. Are y'all gonna have some signs up or something that says, this is my turbine, call this number for diploma?
I'm glad you brought that up, because if you read the article, it said that they didn't know anything about who to contact or anything else, but they cited our project as the correct way to do it. Meaning, right from the very beginning, we did discuss it with the disaster people, with the first responders. They've known all along who we are, and they actually use us as an example of how they would prefer the communications to go forward. So what do we do? And we're doing it right now with Referral, is we're going to have a all-hands meeting with all the first responders. We've got 911 addresses for all the turbines over there. We're going to be doing the same thing. Whatever we do in B County, we will do the same thing. And we work with the first responders. A lot of what we've done on almost all projects is once or twice a year, we actually have mock drills with the first responders, understanding what the process will be if something happens.
Here's my concern though. First responders are great, but I'm a rancher and I go by and there's a problem, and I can call and maybe stop something before it happens. Like in the oil field, you have these phone numbers. If there's an emergency, call this number. that's what I'm asking, will y'all put something like that up?
We have no problem in putting that up. We would prefer to do it. I think the answer is, you know, it's best for us, it's best for everybody. I think my only, the bigger thing that we've done is not just the communications, but if anything bad happens, how we can get the people to the right spot. Because these are kind of rugged ranches that are difficult to know the location. So we try and go overboard to make sure we're as safe as possible. I will say something about the safety. We've just gone through 3 or 4 projects without a lost time accident. And number one concern for us has always been the safety aspect of it. I think that by far is the most important thing.
I have a few more questions. When does, with respect to this, this project, when does RWE expect to recoup its initial investment?
About a year, depending on how it goes. If you look at these returns, they're single-digit returns. So if you were just to look at it in a classical way of return on investment, you know, you're probably in the late teens, 20s. I think that's historically what the wind industry has said. So when you start making the positive gains are 30 years. So to be very clear about it, we need these projects to last for 30 years to not just regain our initial investment from the project level itself, but also to try and get, you know, obviously everybody's in business to make profits. Yeah. We have a certain hurdle rate that we want these projects to do, and that takes the full 30 years.
If this is a $260, $270 million project, what percentage of that is actual outlay of investment, hard dollar investment by RWE?
So that is the taxable amount.
No, I understand. That's not my question. You understand?
Yes, no, I understand your question. The actual value of the investment is higher than that.
It's not my question either.
No, I'm getting to it.
Okay.
RWE will bring up the equity in it, but it is also, some of that's reduced because even though we're in the process of reducing the federal tax credit drastically, and we're kind of going towards the tail end of it, we as companies sell those tax credits to large banks. Those banks typically pay us 80, 85 cents on a dollar for the tax credits themselves. They will give us a certain amount of money cash-wise to have the right to use the project depreciation and tax benefits and stuff. So out of that, you know, the better percentage of it is, or the majority of the percentage is an investment by RWE, but we do sell some of the rights of the project itself, tax benefits.
Okay. So let me just try this again. RWE is coming to Peake County and asking for a tax abatement. You previously said that whether or not Peake County grants RWE a tax abatement could kill this project and certainly would force RWE to move it into a more tax abatement friendly county where they already have an
Kill the
existing.
project, but kill the likelihood of the project in Peake County, or how much we would put in Peake County. I guess is better way.
Okay. So, okay, if you're comfortable with that, you're asking us for a tax abatement. And you previously told this court that if Peake County doesn't grant you a tax abatement, it could have a negative impact on your ability to make this project economically viable in Peake County, as opposed to the better environment in Refugio County. Is that a fair?
That is a fair statement.
Okay. So what I'm asking you is, what is RWE RWE is coming asking for, in effect, us to partner with them to help RWE make a project economically viable so that they can move forward with it. And I'm asking you, what is RWE's investment, actual hard dollar investment in the project to begin with? And I don't have a number. I don't have 50% of 260 to 270 million. I don't have 80%. I don't have 5%.
I used to have a number when it was 100% production tax credit, and we could value it fully there. It was typically that 60% would be hard tax out of pocket itself, 40%. This project doesn't qualify for the 100 and it's actually on the sliding scale. I don't know if I've done that calculation, but what I can tell you is I'm comfortable saying that certainly the majority of the cash investment. But the total tax that goes into a project, the production tax credits are lowering themselves and we're below 50%.
Production tax credits are below 50% currently,
Value.
or starting next year.
The value, so.
It's changing, right, this
It
end of
is.
this year?
It's a 5-year process that began, I believe, 3 years ago. Each year, it went from 100% production tax credits to 80 to 60 to 40 to 20. It was a 5-year phase.
Okay.
And we'll note that that was actually proposed by the industry itself. So we, as a company, have all sorts of generation. We have fossil fuel, we have nuclear, we have obviously renewables. We're transitioning to renewables. And I will tell you that right now, the only form of generation that is actually diminishing their subsidies to zero is wind power. And why? Because the subsidies work. Wind power is now the second cheapest way to make electricity in the United States and around the world. The only thing cheaper is hydroelectric power. Nobody wants their rivers down there. So the industry made a decision that they can stand on their own 2 feet.
And that's great, and there's a lot of creative ways and interests that can be peeled off by the project developer of a wind turbine site like this as well. And you mentioned, carbon tax credits and those types of offsets.
There's no value in those here.
Oh, there's not?
Not in the United States. Should you ever come up with some of what we've seen in Europe, there could be another subsidy come along. We don't see that in the United States. Now, to be very frank, our financial decisions are not predicated on something that may or may not happen. I think as a very conservative company, we always look at what's on the book and what's definitive and make our decisions based on that.
What, that's a good response. I appreciate it. I had a question and I forgot it, but I'm not going to let it go. What is let me move on until I remember what I wanted to ask. What's your average annual revenue that's generated by 1 megawatt of wind energy for 2020? I know it's arbitrary and it's going to change and the price changes, but, in 10 years of P County grants of tax abatement, in 10 years, the benefits of your depreciation of the assets will reduce, and you will. I think you said it a lot more eloquently than I can say it, that when you're looking at how are we going to approach appraisal district on valuation, the valuation will be depreciated over time relatively rapidly, especially in light of a 10% abatement, so that by the time you come out of the abatement, your valuation is not 260 to 270 for tax purposes, if that's the number, right? And so then you'd be looking at your, like you said, an economic approach. How much are you generating? So income approach. Thank you. Yeah. So then, what is the average annual revenue generated by 1 megawatt of wind energy today?
So I would say every megawatt, somewhere around $75,000 per megawatt itself.
Per year or per month?
That would be per year, I'm sorry. From that, of course, is our operating costs would be subtracted from it, and the landowners do get a royalty portion of that itself. But for the project itself, it obviously gets the majority of it because we have to tear down our investment.
So by the time it gets to the actual tax, that number's diluted quite a bit. That's why I asked a while ago, is the grid to curtail some of the.
Could you say that again, so I can understand?
No, but by the time you take off, okay, say maybe 75,000, you gotta pay the landlord, you gotta pay your expenses, you got, using the income approach, well then.
So, the income approach would be there, remember that it's an income for the project itself, and I think you'll find that when the project finally gets to the point where the depreciation is below the income level itself, it will stabilize, because obviously the equipment gets older. But the reality is, think about the income itself. We're not predicated on the fact that our income's gonna come down, right? We chart that shows you power prices. We're in a dip right now, but if you ever look over a period of time, power has become, will always meet the inflationary, rate plus some, because we continue to use more and more energy every single year. On a revenue basis, we sell at the market level or have buy, or enter into agreements to sell for, but it basically represents the, market value and the market value going forward. So power continues to go up. We're in a, you know, a COVID depression, whatever you want to call it, where prices have come down and oil prices, demand has come down. Reality is, over 30 years, it's a flip.
Quick question. Do you have any sales contracts in place yet?
So, we have none for this project itself. We have them for almost all our other projects. We do have one, ability that gives us a, so one of the things that you don't want to do is you don't want to lock yourself in place with a contract until you think it's optimal. And so we try and wait for the last moment. And the beauty of Texas, because it became the first deregulated market in the entire United States, is that you actually can make the power and just sell it into the grid system. It takes, you know, what you've given, and it pays you back what the market is bearing at that time. So as a fundamental right of bedrock, what we look at is what's the market conditions for the next 5 years. So we go out to professional consultants, they give us a view on what it's gonna be, and what we're looking at is, can we get a deal that is near this, that, number one, we wanna stabilize cash flow, but by the same token is we wanna maximize our profit itself. And in Texas, it's not true in many other places, you have the ability that if you never did an agreement, you can still sell. So we have several projects out in West Texas that's what we do. We sell right into the grid system, we take the prevailing price, and that's ours. I'm more leery of that, in that I think, the best way to make a project work within our system and to give we're a publicly traded company, so obviously we have shareholders to worry about. I believe diminishing the risk to them is important, and that means entering into some kind of agreement, long-term agreement. By long-term, what do I mean? 10 years. But we actually do believe that when you look at all the price curves right now, you start looking at what power will be like 10 years down the line, 8 years down the line, 15 years down the line. I think you'd be very surprised to see what those numbers are. Much higher.
I remembered my question. Is there any current legislation in Congress? Are there any senators that are, or congressmen that are working on any legislation to renew the renewables wind farm?
So we've heard some. I think the major leader on the Republican side is Senator Grassley of Iowa, Republican, but very, very, probably the most pro-wind proponent in the Senate itself. Have we seen anything? So our industry, American Wind Energy Association, does have lobbyists, and they've been having discussion, and part of it will hinge on whether we as a country go back into the Paris Climate Accord itself, because that would be an incentive for people to continue to put in renewables. Over the last 3 to 4 years, renewables now have put in more generation capacity than conventional, and it's only been over the last 4 years or so, both in the United States and worldwide. So, driving force in many places has been just meeting the Accord requirements themselves. So if our country commits to diminishing certain emissions, I would presume, I haven't seen anything to the effect, but you would presume that the power industry would incentivize us to bring in renewables, whether that's solar or wind. There's a couple other technologies out there.
A follow-up to that, is there any current legislation or not current, pending legislation that you're aware of in state courts dealing with wind farms?
I know. I think the reverse was more true. I think there was a pretty significant attempt to diminish the 313 availability I think what we've seen is, 80 to 85% of residents throughout the United States, regardless of where you're at, are looking for more renewable energy. But I do recognize that, I don't believe that renewables will be the dominant force in the electrical industry for a long time. I think they're going to need storage capabilities to be able to levelize them. But because it's become so cheap, it is causing an impact on some of the other industries that sell into the power generation. And they've lost market share.
Right.
And so that's a consideration. I truly believe that once we solve this storage issue, I think you'll see more. By the way, one of the reasons why we as a company have so many projects along the coast of Texas is the power generated along the coast is very different than what is anywhere else in either Texas or around the country. Around most of the places, if you went to West Texas, you find that the wind blows early morning, comes way down during the day, and then bumps back up at the nighttime. Kind of the land temperature differential to the air. Because you have the coast along here with a body of water that is at a constant temperature. You know it better than I do. The wind starts picking up in the morning, kind of gets to a level around 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock where it's kind of stable, and then stays until 6, 7 o'clock. Think about us as human beings when we use power, late morning through late afternoon. So what we have found out is that the wind along the coast of Texas has more value. And actually even ERCOT, the transmission system, values the project along the coast of Texas differently than it values or evaluates a project anywhere else in Texas. That's why we're here. It produces a higher value wind, and pretty confident in, there's some dramatic global changes, climatic changes that I don't know about. We're pretty confident that it will continue to do the same thing.
Well, Mr. Saunders, I don't have any other questions at this time. I want to thank you for coming up. If the other commissioners have questions, I'll give the floor in just a second. I'm not done yet. But it just, in general, I don't know ultimately how I'm going to come down on this proposal, well, it's not a proposal yet, but I do look forward to working with you, and I appreciate your candor this morning in helping us try to look at this from a perspective of the interests that we're supposed to protect, and based on the need that is supposed to be the basis for 312, right? So at some point in time, industry and regulators and the legislature are actually going to have to look at these two statutes and say, okay, we say these are the basis for why these should be granted, and we're granting them for all of these projects that come up right to the very bottom. Wouldn't it be better for the state legislature to pass a law that clarifies that, yes, this is exactly what we are intending, rather than industry having to continually come up with interesting justifications for 2 full-time employees, 5 full-time employees, and a 50% or 65% abatement on a $260 million project. As a small county, our overall tax base, relatively speaking, is obviously a lot smaller than our larger counties, and that tax base increase that your project would inject into the county marginally doesn't make that big of a difference on everybody's taxes, but it does make a difference, and it's a meaningful difference. And so what you and every other wind energy company is asking when you come before the commissioner's court or the school districts or anybody else is, in essence, saying, taxing authority, continue to tax your existing tax base, the people that live here, at the same rate, at the same basis, at the same mathematics as before, and bring us in and give us a discount, and they'll carry that on their shoulders. And the number is infinitesimally small, but it's true. If you're making an investment and you're asking us for a 50% or 65% reduction, that's over $100 million that you're asking our existing tax base to continue to carry to float your project. because you've said that you need it in order to make this project economic. And I've said, well, I'd like to know how you need it, not just that you say you need it. So, but we're so early in the process that I have every expectation that any questions that I have will be answered. And I've really appreciated our back and forth. And so I'm looking forward to you maybe changing my mind. I really am. I truly am.
The only thing I will say is, it's an interesting point, I've heard it from people who are giving away money. The reality is, we're not paying any money into your tax base right now. Even with an abatement, we would.
You're right.
So, to suggest that we have a negative impact on the current residents and the taxpayers, it's incorrect. The reality is, what we've seen from counties is they want us to come in because what we do is we give them a bigger tax base, and especially for the school districts themselves. It gives them a much better tax base, and if you think about it, one of the things we do is, even with a Chapter 313, you can't touch none of the bonding capabilities of the school district. Can you take a tax value limitation?
Right.
So what happens is a lot of the school districts who have been looking to improve their buildings, anything else, use a large company coming in like ours. And I know it's not a lot. $200 million to me seems like an awful lot of money and a lot of change in the tax rate, but I also understand that you have a lot of others. But it does make a difference in school districts. I also think that, theoretically, we've increased the revenue that you would be getting versus us not being in the county. So I think that's the point of what we try and do. I will also suggest one thing is we do use it. Think about if we're spending minimum $260 because that's what it goes out to look, and there's more that goes into it. Do we want to go somewhere where they don't want us, where they don't want us to be part of the community? We're there for 30 years, and not to be wanted presents a problem. So we had a project in south of Corpus Christi called the Patriot Wind Farm, and we were unable to get a abatement on it, and we ended up selling the project itself. It is conceptually something that's important to know that the county wants to. And
Let me jump onto that real quick. First of all, and it wasn't my intent to say that you moving in is totally negative. That's not. I'm weighing equities, and you are asking me as a member of this court to weigh equities and look at both the detriments, the ask, and the benefit that we get. So it is exactly what we need to look at, and we need to acknowledge that yes, if we grant you a tax abatement, then our other taxpayers are going to shoulder that tax-based burden until the abatement ends, at which point in time the valuation is going to change. And I think history shows what history shows with respect to that. So it's not negative. I don't mean to say that it's negative. With respect to what you just said, we want you here. We want you here just like all industry. Absolutely. What you're asking us is not, are we on board with you? And if we say, no, we don't want to participate with the financing component of the project, but we want you to be here, that doesn't mean we're anti-wind. And so I do take exception to that because we want you here, but just like we want oil and gas here and we want other industry here, we want you to be a part of our community 100% with everybody else. And like I say, back to we'll do most of this offline. I really look forward to working with you on it, and I hope that you can change my mind.
I'm just saying, he picked up the point there. You're saying that, we don't want you here. We want you here, but we also have an obligation and a responsibility to the taxpayers that have put us here. Now, we want you on the same playing field as everybody else. Now, you're setting yourself way above and saying, like I just said, the other people are shouldering your discount because, we want to come into B County. And that's, as a business owner, I find that a little offensive,
I apologize for that. I think you also understand my perspective on it.
No, you're doing your job, sir. I'm just saying I represent a portion of the people of this county that put me here, and I'm voicing an opinion for them.
And I always say the same thing, is we bring some value. we bring, tax base increase
Absolutely.
at no cost. There's no downside, quite frankly, because you don't have a snap. I mean, obviously, we have, projects in the immediate area. We have, we'll continue to look to expand our capabilities in the area itself. Natural direction was to look at B County itself. And, I think from our perspective, what we like is we think we bring certain values to it, long-term stability and for the jobs themselves. They'll be there. We hire from the local community. The other thing that, we've kept track of lately is there's the project itself and how much it moves the tax base, but what we've been tracking is how much we buy from the local community in services, goods, and everything else. And, on the Refugio County, I think it was over $17 million, $17 to $20 million brought into the county or from the local area itself in material services and others. Project I'm doing in Williston right now, as of last week, and it's still not done, $38 million. It's a little bit bigger project, 440 megawatts, but those are things that you never see. And as far as the value of what a wind project does, because you're always thinking, at least I've always thought about it, here's, what we bring is tax base increase, we create some jobs, they're typically better paying than the local. Again, why? Because we want our people to stay forever. We want to create a job with someone who's raising their family in the area and will stay with us for a long time. What we started doing is, number one, we did it as a way to make sure that our contractors were trying to procure services from the local area. There's certain provisions for publicly traded companies that you can't demand that they buy from the area itself. But we tracked it to try and make sure they're hiring from the local area and also they're acquiring services, materials and services. And that's been our, why we came across this information. And it's been very valuable because I personally didn't realize the impact.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, you're gonna bring it, get it locally or bring it in, truck it in from hundreds of miles away. It doesn't make sense to do that. And I mean, you're coming in here, you're coming in B County and you're not gonna come in and running negative numbers. You're coming in with your performer, you're gonna make some money here, correct?
We intend to make money on the project. Otherwise,
exactly right, sir.
as a publicly traded company, if we ever put up something that didn't get the hurdle return, the minimum hurdle return that's required within our company, we'd be doing our shareholders a big service.
Judge, are we here today to make a decision on this?
No, this
No,
is just
no,
information,
no,
kind
no,
of opening the floor, so
because
we
what
can all meet.
So I wanted him to come in and answer all the questions before we actually sat down. And again, we're still waiting on something from TAP too, so. Okay. It is, I'm still here. I don't know when the decision is gonna be made. I know in the past, when the companies have come before us asking for abatement, they bring us a little chart saying, this is what we're proposing, these are the options, and it spells out the amount, the length of the abatement, and how much the county is expected to make that first year, second year, third year, all the way down to 10 years. That way, whoever's in the court can make a educational decision as far as the money's concerned. And I'm a firm believer of what the gentleman said, and that's why in the past the county had given tax abatement. As a matter of fact, I think we gave one to south of the county,
Yep.
and then we denied one north of the county. Okay?
And they're still moving.
And they're still gonna move forward.
And
But-
adding to it with the solar.
yeah, yeah. But every company's different. That's not the same company this man represents also. So to me, I'm a firm believer of, right now, we're not getting squarely nothing. But even with the abatement, we're gonna see some more revenue coming into the county. And believe me, this county needs revenue, like every other county in the state. Okay, especially what we've been dealing with here lately. So having said that, I'll start my soapbox, but yeah, that's what I would recommend, some kind of chart for myself or for the gentleman who's gonna take my seat after I'm gone, so they can.
I can come up with something that shows you the base case. Again, there is a number of different cases. The base case itself would have us preferentially at B County versus Refugio. If you just look at how you build it, and how you keep your costs down, and how you maximize R, which are different.
Let me ask you an interesting question though. If you've already got an abatement contract with Curio County, why would you prefer to put in Big County?
So we have a lot of acres. So we have a lot of acres in Refugio, but we have even more acres in B County leased. So logically, a couple of things is when you put up a wind turbine, and if they're too close to another turbine, there's something called a wake effect. And the wake effect is that this turbine steals some of it. So conceptually, we have two things going for us when we design it. One is to expand the wind project as much as possible to take up all your leased land, because therefore each turbine now maximizes its generation. The downside of it is the bigger you build it, the more your construction costs. The great news of where we're at is this is basically cattle country, so you're not taking a lot of productive land out of usage, or our costs aren't that high because of the land value that's there right now. So why would we, could we theoretically build a project strictly in Refugio? Sure. Is that what we want to do? The larger the project we can build, the greater the economy of scale. Most of our land is in B County. We would try and maximize what we have in B County. And right now, based on everything that I see, the best solution for our project would have us the majority of B County if we had everything. That doesn't preclude us from, we're looking at more land in Refugio. I'm sure you guys have heard it. It gets around pretty fast with families that are interested. But I have the other goal is to get this done as soon as possible. Because quite frankly, we are losing value every year that we go forward. That's why this project, the uniqueness about this project is developers typically come to you 2, 3, 4 years in advance. They're talking to you. We have a little different philosophy is we don't want you to get excited about something if it's not real. What we bring to you is a very near opportunity. Think about that. It'd be the January 1st, 2022 snapshot. We've even seen it where counties, there is legally a process for expediting that first pilot payment. And we did that in Willacy County. They were having trouble meeting their budget. And the first pilot payment, we expedited and brought it up sooner so that they didn't have to lay off people and stuff. So, they looked at us as kind of what I think is we're a financial opportunity. How do you maximize your opportunity?
When you give us the sheet on the proposal, I would like to see the contract you have with the Curio County also.
Should be public. Right.
But we would like for you to provide that, so we shouldn't have to go look for that.
Right. I think we should be able to provide that. It has to be public record, obviously, right?
That is correct, yes, sir.
So I don't think there's any problem.
Including the pilot program that you have included on.
It's in there. It is a pilot program.
Mr. Saunders, I'm sorry, I'm making that real quick. Anybody have any other questions?
Not now. I mean, this is not.
I want to comment that Mr. Saunders, he had asked me, and he's been, not blowing my phone up, but he's been talking to me back and forth. And I did tell him it was on the agenda, and his comment was, do I need to be there? He can answer the questions that I'll never be able to answer. And to me, I think he has answered a huge amount of questions, more so than I've heard from the last two, even the wind farm from Avonbridge, we didn't get the answers that we got out here, so.
Very good. You've done good, sir.
Well, regardless of where we go, one of the things that I do want to make sure is we're above board with everything we do with you. 30 years is a long time, and we're not interested in making a huge investment and then having bad relationships, whether with you guys or the residents. It just makes no business at all.
And I also want to add to the comment that this company, with Richard being the representative, has met with Ray and I, and we've discussed what's going on down in that part. The concerned citizens down there are awaiting, now that I have the road agreement, we'll schedule a small town hall
kind of hard to do one of these, but just a small question with the people along that route, their safety concerns. And he's addressed the safety concerns also, so, I think they've moved a lot forward than
Most important question, I'm so sorry, Mr. Saunders. When you do get this project and you do start, constructing, will all of those wind turbine parts be coming up from the Port of Corpus Christi or from Houston?
Haven't seen, so it's a different company than what builds the Riverdale County project.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know where they're going to be sourcing it. It's a company called, Nordic, Acciona. Their, manufacturing plant, the closest one to here is in Iowa. I will say that I'm pretty confident some components are gonna come in through one of the ports for sure. Because we have found that that's the cheapest way to transport these things going to the port.
I would just, if we're gonna have 50 megawatts worth of blades going from 69 to 181 bypass south, we need to know that sooner rather than later, because that's a meaningful discussion.
he did tell me that most is coming north, coming out of Sinton,
That's good.
and
Certainly gonna come up that way. We have two ways to enter the project. The preferential way would be to come up, 631 to some land that we have there, and then come up through the project itself. The other entrance is, we continue to have the entrance off of 77 by Woodsboro, on the main branch road, leads directly across the Roach Ranch directly onto the Hill College. So there are two potential entrances. I think, going forward, if we went with this project itself as we conceive it, operations, we probably may not even use that southern entrance. It would be only a construction time period. We might have it as a secondary because our safety protocols basically, don't allow us to have a singular entrance and exit in case of an emergency. So if one road was cut off, our people couldn't get in, and the first responders couldn't get there, and our people couldn't get off. But I would suggest, we have two different ways to get there. I think the most amount of sense is from 631. And the one thing I forgot to say is we do make a promise to our landowners, to the counties, to everybody we deal with. Our promise is we're not going to make it better, like the road, we're not promising it's better, but nothing will be left in worse condition than we found it. And one of the ways we do it, by the way, is we'll probably take somebody, Mr. Gonzalez or somebody else with us, videotape the condition of any of the county roads we're going to be touching. And we do this on every project, and we record the original condition of the roads themselves, just to prove that we've left it in better condition. Or not, I shouldn't say that, that's a bad problem.
We prefer that language, Mr. Saunders. Keep saying it.
I keep getting closer.
Yeah,
I don't want to
you want to. RWE wants to say that.
Well,
Say it.
because I know how much we spend on county roads.
Yeah.
It's an enormous number. In fact, it's funny because, I was just at Commissioner's Court for Willoughby last week, and they actually, said something that was very interesting. They basically said we've increased their roads so well that now their other residents would like their roads to be at the same level. And they're like, you're going to cost us money. And we're like, all we did is we try and do things the right way. Again, those roads are there. We try and keep them up so we can use them for 30 years.
Thank
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Haggard, for bringing that up. That's really, really good. I appreciate that. Where are we now? Agenda item number 16, revisit emergency management phone application proposal.
I'll put these glasses on since somebody left the person.
Nick Hills, I think.
Okay. Mike Mello, emergency manager.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Last Commissioners Court meeting we had, I brought up a proposal for an app for the smartphone. We looked at different avenues, and we went back to the folks and told them, frankly, it was too much.
and that, the CARES Act would only pay a certain amount. And so they sharpened their pencils some more, and they miraculously brought it down to where, we fall within those parameters. Now, the issue we have at hand is that the CARES Act wouldn't pay for the second, third, and fourth year of the upkeep programming cost, which is just short of $8,000 a year. So what we're looking at, is 3 different entities. You'd have emergency management, you would have the sheriff's office, and you'd have the city of Beeville. So we would preferably split on that. Now, one thing that I'm looking at, and to be quite honest, we have an emergency notification system, and I have not researched, downsizing that to where our mass notification system is there, but it's only, folks only get with us if they have to get in. So if they don't want to say, yes, I want that program, then they won't get the notification. Now, since then, there is other programs that I could push it out, go to the TV and stuff like that. And we might have to keep that part of the function there. But as far as emergency notification locally, more people listen to an app that's on their phone than getting a text message or something like that. More people utilize the app than they would the emergency notification system. At the present time, we have, at the most, 1,400 people out of 33,000 on our emergency notification system. So I think an app would be more advantageous to us.
Now, does that mean if they have to install an app on their phone to get the stuff?
They have to download it, yes, sir.
If we can't get with 14,000 do this, a lot of people aren't putting apps on their phones either.
Oh, I'd hate to,
I'm one of them.
well,
But I do get the notifications.
you're the exception rather than the rule.
I don't know about that stuff.
Over 80% of the folks,
I really don't.
yeah.
I most people, you know, putting an app on their phone, how do we convince them to do that, but not sign up for a service that's already available? I'm being the devil's advocate here.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we work harder to get them to sign up for what's there? I mean, why do this? Here's another $8,000 a year to duplicate something we're already doing.
I think this media is more effective than what we're used to doing now. And that's the best answer I have. There's statistics that show that, I want to say 80%, if not 90% of the people in, say, Lee County have smartphones. There's a few that still have the flip phones, but now they're turning into smartphones as well. And people download the app. They download games every day.
But the smartphone also takes care of what we're doing now, right? If I signed up, I get the alert.
Yes, if you sign up.
That's what I'm saying, though. We've already got a system in place. We're paying a lot of money for it. You're gonna have to convince me that, are we gonna do away with the old system or have both?
At the present time, like I said, I haven't researched to see if I can downsize with the company, because it might be a package deal where you get all this because we're doing emergency notification.
It's the same company that we already have?
No, sir. This is a company that has done the apps for more than, I want to say, 800 different law enforcement agencies.
We don't have the SO here to see what their take is on this anymore.
Well, frankly, I can tell you they like it. They like it a lot, but frankly, they want to do it. They like the idea. There's some features they'd like to see added on it. But
I get back to what Commissioner Farias and all those concerned about is our finances, and we're looking at, when this is over, shouldering this for several years when we already have a system in place that works.
just trying to move to the new millennium, sir. That's all it is.
I understand.
Where are, and forgive me, where are we on this as far as timing goes?
It's close.
Yeah,
Right now,
tomorrow.
we, have to have the invoice prior to, next week?
The 15th is what Grace said, the 15th, and then we have
That's
the
tomorrow, right?
30th.
And the current proposed cost is, initial cost is what? 8,000?
CARES Act funding, 16,900. That's to develop. Candy has a proposal.
And then after that,
It would be $8,000 a year upkeep.
for 3 years minimum?
No, it said yearly.
Okay.
That's,
And the city's on board with that? Or the city will agree to do their share?
if it's part of our
agreement.
management budget, it's,
And the sheriff said they're willing to put in their part?
they're looking at trying to find out where they can get the money from for next year, and that, they were talking about the commissary, they were talking about other areas that they could.
The thing is, that you guys are the county, the sheriff is the county, so the county has to provide two-thirds of the
Yes.
cost.
Yes,
Basically,
but,
not three ways.
okay, but the point I'm trying to say is that the commissary funding from the inmate population is not part of the
Oh, no.
county public.
Yeah.
So that's where they can get,
That little
they can get
fund
that
they can
little
use
funding
that
out of there.
They have their little, yeah,
So,
but you go down to it, it's two-thirds by us,
Have their
one-third by the
phone,
city.
money.
Now, is what I'm hearing correct, that CARES Act will pay for the first year period,
that's what I'm saying.
and we don't have to, if we decide after that, we don't want it anymore, we don't have to pay for it.
Right, Ms. Canty?
It's gone.
CARES Act will pay for the first.
They have, yes, because,
It's a category 1,
yeah,
right?
and, category 2, this is where, on the CRS it's placed.
Category 2.
Well, why can't you do this then? Do we have to, approve it, and then next year, I think that's what we do.
Get the CARES Act to pay for it right now, and we'll know before next year's budget whether we want to do it.
Exactly, right.
And then we can say, yes, let's do it, or no, we don't.
Yeah, and you find out the amount of people that sign on, and you'll be able to tell us, hey,
Well, I think that's kind of what we're doing,
twice.
kind of what we're doing now with the CARES Act. We're doing what we can, and we're pushing everything out to where we think we might be budget time next year.
And this doesn't commit us to the next year, then, does it?
No, it doesn't, it's only for 1 year.
Move to approve?
There you go.
Got a motion, multiple seconds, any further discussion? Thank you, Mr. Willow. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye. And tell Mr. Garza to come back, and if he wants to continue the program, introduce it to the court. Because you won't be here, neither will I. So, you can.
No, he'll be around for another year.
No.
September 30th.
He's going to.
No, we're gonna keep it.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you very much.
Remember,
You
we
don't
have to
bitch.
accept his resignation.
Yeah, we.
Oh, Mike.
There's rules about.
For too long, he's gonna have a stapler, and his desk is gonna be in the,
And the bottom,
There's
no,
paper
in the
around there.
stairwell, yeah.
Very well. And when you're not.
Ah,
there, you're gonna have a full
John vacated the basement, remember?
I saw that movie.
Thank you all very much. Agenda item number 17, have we done 17? Regional COVID-19 testing facility proposal for the B County Expo Center. Mr. Willow, you're batting 1 for 1. Let's see how this one goes.
Man of the hour.
That's a deal I have for the county. We have a feather for our cap, actually. We have done so much testing in B County. Last we ever talked, with the people doing the county, we have tested over 29,000 people in B County, not just the coalition, but all the testing agencies in the county. Tito, Mr. Gary Barney, is asked and looking for 3 regional hubs in his district, region 11. We would like B County to be one, and so everybody in over a 30, 45-mile radius will come to B County. He wants one in Nueces County, and he wants one further south. If we have it, it will be open 7 days a week people know that if they wanna come and get tested, all they have to do is show up. No cost to the county. It is the contractors by the, the government. And the only drawback that I see so far is that when we have things going on in the Coliseum, we're gonna have to move the trailer we're gonna be getting any day now to a different location to conduct the testing. So, I request to get commissioner's approval so I can have Gary Barney as a district disaster coordinator for Tatum to add that.
There's an understanding that will occur at one, at some point, like the 4-H.
Oh, yeah, 4-H is gonna
Yeah, they
take,
can occupy the whole.
Yeah.
It only works if we can use the trailer to
Right.
adjust the location.
yeah,
I mean, they're aware that it's gonna be there 100% of the time.
yes, and it's big enough, I got a generator on that thing, we could move it out to the back 40 of the Coliseum, it's a big place, we can get away with it.
I moved to approve.
A second, I was gonna say, we want to.
It had to be at no cost to the county.
County don't have to go somewhere else.
I'm excited waiting for the trailer.
Me too, that's gonna be great.
We've got a motion and a second, further discussion? Of course, you'll need to just coordinate with Wally, to make sure he's on board, John. No, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes without exception. Batting 1,000.
Can I go now?
Willow, you guys, no, don't leave, there may be something else on this agenda. We've done agenda item number 18, we're moving on to agenda item 19, recommendation from the Policy Formulation Committee on changes, additions to the following section of the B County Policy Handbook, section 1.08, sexual harassment.
I'm glad I'm saving you guys for any money, that's great. These are, this decision y'all guys have to make, so Jaime Castillo, HR Director. Yes, this one here is in regards to, back in June of, this year, the Supreme Court ruled that under the Title 8 of the, 1964 Civil Rights Act, that LGBTQ, individuals are now protected employees, from discrimination based on their sex. So, of course, that means we have to update our policies accordingly. So our equal opportunity policy, our harassment policy, as well as our sexual harassment policy have the verbiage to cover us on that.
Second?
Yeah. We've got a motion to approve as presented and a second. Any further discussion? You get those votes? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes without exception. Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Agenda item number 20, recommendation from the Policy Formulation Committee on changes, additions to the following sections of the B County Policy Handbook. Section 8.16, COVID-19 related admin leave. Mr. Castillo, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, sir. Basically, this is another policy. We put this admin leave into the policy handbook, just shortly after March to accommodate for the employees in case they got, COVID or had to deal with, the testing and all that. We put admin leave into that policy. Also in the policy, it indicates that it will terminate on December 31st, so it will end. So we're gonna have to change the policy to remove that, but we're also gonna keep, the instructions that we had in there in regards to what an employee does if he contracts COVID or if he comes in contact with somebody with it. We still have that in place. It's not gone yet, so we still gonna have to deal with it now until who knows in the future. But we want to make those changes along with maybe updating a little closer to the CDC guidelines that are out now, rather than what they were back in March. Also, the Family First Coronavirus Act, which gave the employees time beyond the time we were giving employees, that's supposed to terminate here on the 30th or 31st of this month as well, too. The question kind of to the commissioners is, and the judge is, are we gonna continue leave beyond what we put in place for the employees? Because they ain't gonna have nothing after that. They're gonna pretty much rely on whatever leave they have. Of course, it can get sticky because some have used the time they've had, others haven't even touched it yet. So if we move forward, there's gonna be a lot of discussion as to who gets the time moving forward, who doesn't, I think.
If we just continue what we're doing, there's no foul involved, right?
No, sir, it's just if the employee is,
sick due to it, they have to use their leaves that they have built up.
I was thinking that we were giving them 2 weeks.
Yes, sir, we were.
Okay, that's what I'm saying, though. If we continue doing what we had been doing with the 2 weeks after December 31st, we'd be doing exactly what we were doing before, correct?
What they don't have is they don't have that Families First Coronavirus Relief Act, which tells all employers, you have to give your employee 80 hours or their 2-week equivalent off to recover from COVID. So they lose that component.
Right, but if we did it anyway, we're still, we could do it.
We were
Yeah,
giving
that's
2
what I-
weeks on top of what the government was giving,
Okay.
okay? Some employees have exceeded that already. Others haven't even touched that, but if we move forward and say the court says, yeah, the employee can still continue, the question is, what happens to those employees that used it up already?
That's moot point. It's over, that's behind us.
Okay.
Because someone might spend 2 weeks in the hospital,
Yeah.
or 3 weeks.
Well, and we had that situation. you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
Or
where-
no, they might spend all that time or more in the hospital.
Yeah. Because, I mean, our office is the one tracking all this, or at least trying the best we can to track it.
You know, to be fair to the employee, I personally think we should continue doing exactly what we're doing now with the others, because if somebody's sick, they need that income, they need that, we need that employee, they're a good employee, I'm just talking.
Yes, sir.
And it's not their fault they got it, and they're working, doing their job as essential employees. We do the same thing for, we've adjusted our workers' comp policy to take care of people that are volunteering and everything.
They're also, they can also tap into their, sick leave pool if they're members of. Oh, we can't.
May I?
Yes, sir.
As part of the sick leave committee, COVID itself is not covered. So, but if you're in the hospital and you're out of your sick leave and you need it, then you could apply to the committee. You know, there's a way, but just because I'm at home and I have COVID, you can't tap into the sick leave pool.
That's become a serious
It's not in the
issue.
policy to do that yet, so.
That's another tool, though. That's another tool.
It is, but
As far as rather than.
We haven't had that come up,
You
I'm on
know,
that committee.
because a lot of people been putting in that sick leave pool for a long time and never utilize it. And why can't the court decide to use COVID as part of a reason to utilize it, even if they're at home? Because it's an illness.
well, except that, and I
They gotta
contributed to the sick
exhaust
leave
all
pool
of their
whenever
hours of
I was an
time.
active employee. You get other things that happen, major illnesses, car wrecks, or one thing or another. I really don't want to touch that sick leave pool for COVID. I would rather the court give let's call it immunity, here's so many hours, period. You can only use it one time, you can't get COVID twice.
Yeah.
Well,
Not for business, this disease is, nobody knows.
No,
The thing is,
There's no
there's,
Because you're seeing
You're
every
right
day
at the
somebody
end of
has
the
it
tunnel,
the second
almost.
time. And
coming up.
What are you asking us to do?
Yeah, what's your recommendation?
Yeah, what's your recommendation? Thank you.
Basically, the policy is ending it, gentlemen, and, I ain't technically making a recommendation because the logistics of it, in my head, they start to become very complicated, only because, as we mentioned, those who've used it, you say you won't get it again, which is great, but in our policy, individuals who are exposed to others are out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
quarantined.
Yes, so that kind of muddies up, they're out for a while using their time, but say individuals, now they're out because they've got it, they've not put time on top of time. And it's really becoming difficult to track.
Let me
because
answer
of
this real quick. I mean, this is probably unfair. The 2-week, the Families First Act component of B County employees that have contracted COVID-19, how many hours have county employees racked up since COVID started that would fall under that? Because that's the rub, right? That's what makes it complicated, right, is that additional 2 weeks.
Well, that 2 weeks is gone, regardless of whether you all want it or not. The government is taking that
I
away,
understand
unless somewhere down the line.
The tax credit that the government's providing is gone, but that's, and I think that's where maybe I understand what you're explaining, I understand what the commissioners are questioning, and I think that's the difference is how much is that extra 2 weeks? Because that's the only thing that's changing at the end of this year, right? is that family first act, that two week pay period? That's the only thing that's ending at the end of this.
Yes, as far as I know, that they haven't, I've been listening and watching to see if there's gonna be an extension of that, and there isn't. So those who had the opportunity to use it, got to use it, those who haven't, they ain't gonna get to use it.
And so you're asking the commissioners for, you're letting us know, hey, we need to make changes to the policy because of this issue. What's your recommendation?
The policy changes because we added on top of those hours that the government gave an extra 2 weeks. We're moving into the next year. It was put in our policy when we made it that the counties love for, you know, the employees, by adding on top of the government, will be disappearing as well too. My question was, does the court want to continue to move it forward? If so, then we might need to discuss the logistics of it, because some have used it, some haven't. And again, I'm not talking about the government's 2 weeks, I'm talking about our 2 weeks that we put on top. So we've technically given the employees 4 weeks, or, however many hours of time.
In addition to FMLA,
Right, FMLA has some terminology in there for some individuals related to COVID, but they're very specific. But what we've done is we put time on top of government time. And some employees have exceeded it, some employees haven't touched it, some employees are in the middle of it.
And the government time's going away.
That's going away.
So the question before us today, do we want to continue our county time?
Right, because according to our policy, ours is going away too. So I'm just bringing it for the court if they would like to.
That I think we should continue the county time.
Yeah, that's what and then early next year, we could come back, let the committee look at some of the more difficult issues that Castillo is bringing to us, and say, okay, this is the solution. Does that make sense? And that way we bridge the gap on the time issue.
Yes.
But we're not just gonna look at it, in August, discussing budget, you know what I mean?
So, to give them the 2 weeks. Continue to give them the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Period.
For those that haven't used it,
Well, I don't, if they have COVID, there's 2 weeks.
for the new year, because some have had COVID and
For
used 2
the
weeks.
new year, that's what I'm looking at.
Did our policy say you can only have it one?
Yes, sir. Same with the government. The government's the same way too. You only get 80 hours. That's it.
Then what I'm thinking is, to bridge the gap, we continue on with the existing policy as revised, as presented, but then that our subcommittee gets together and looks at the issue with, is there a second bite at the apple or a third bite? And then bring something back to us maybe in January. And hopefully we haven't had to have, or Mr. Castillo hasn't had to have this difficult.
Are you talking about sick leave pool?
Yeah. Or not the sick leave, not sick leave.
The administrative leave.
Yeah.
Administrative, okay.
Yeah, so moved.
I'll second. I have a question.
Yeah,
On the quarantine part, if they, he got it, and that next one, I'm on a quarantine now, is that still 14 days? Because the CDC said, it's recommending 7 days, right, Mike?
Okay, right now, if we're sitting here, we're all wearing masks up, okay? That minimizes the issue. They talk also, and CDC, they recommend that 15 minutes exposure, if you didn't have a mask on, or if you're right there with them, and it's, oh, well, it's not 15 minutes, you're okay. They came back and said, now it's 15 minutes a day, 15 minutes in that whole time frame. So if you're unexposed and with them, that increases the risk a little bit, okay? No symptoms, temperature's good, you're all right. This risk right here is minimized. This is all minimized. So we, if they ask me, and because everyone here is a essential employee, the CDC also says continue working, wear your face mask, take your temperature twice a day, as long as you don't have any symptoms. Once you feel a symptom, you go home and start the quarantine process.
How many days?
They want you to 7 to 10 days. That's what it is.
They lowered
It used to be 14.
They lowered it.
They lowered it. Oh, they
That's another
constantly lowered it.
consideration for you guys too.
They also followed B County's recommendation, Mike Willow, that to come back to work, our recommendation is you have to have a negative test from the PCR testing, not the antigen testing and not the antibody testing. So the quick tests that we go to different places to get are antigen tests. They don't go deep into the cell to find out, but they're antigen tests. So anyway, what'll happen is the federal government, the CDC now says if you want to come back to work, you have to have a PCR test, not the quick test antigen, because they could have a lot of false negatives.
You hearing that, Mr. Trujillo?
I hear.
Okay, we're gonna come back and make the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Willow.
Motion is already there.
We got the motion and the second. The motion,
Discussion, sir.
yeah, we're at the discussion. The motion was to approve the extension of existing policy, section 8.16, and request administrative lead committee to bring further revisions to said policy in January, February of 2021. Would you just hear that, Ms. Edmonds?
That was the motion.
Any further discussion? Thank you, Mr. Castillo. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you. We have about, not a lot of time. We've just got a few minutes I think left. Agenda item number 21, update, discussion, and possible action regarding B County COVID-19 status, preparedness, and contingency planning. We have nothing in the packet.
There you go.
We have something in the packet, and it's not in my packet. What do you send me? It's not Danny's fault, it's my fault. I don't know why it's my fault, but I know it's my fault. Okay. So we're entering into we have brought back a revised, professional services contract with Dr. Phillips. She's got the CLIA licensure to allow us to have our own antigen, testing, equipment. It's actually a more simplified version of the test, which I think probably in practice is going to be easier for us to deploy and actually utilize. And so we wanted to bring this forward because we didn't, the last time we discussed the rapid testing component, we voted on approving the equipment. And we need to approve her contract as well, if that's the will of the court.
Move to approve.
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes without exception. Thank you, gentlemen. As far as other updates regarding COVID-19, our incidence rate of positive tests is going up. We know this because we're getting more positive tests day over day than we were in previous weeks. The trend is increasing, so everybody be careful, be safe, and be smart. Protect yourself and those of you that you love. Mr. Willow, do you have anything else to add with respect to COVID-19 at this time?
The only thing I have, sir, is that the testing we did Thursday, 180 tests were conducted. So people came, no results yet, but 180 tests were conducted. And so people are either feeling the effects of Thanksgiving or trying to prepare for the effects of Christmas.
And it's a fair statement. I mean, you know, many of us, we are exposed, and it could be casual, and it probably doesn't result in you catching COVID. But if you are exposed, and I'm speaking to anybody that might be listening or watching this later, if you are exposed, call our hotline. We've got testing here literally all the time. Get tested. Provide yourself with that peace of mind and that comfort, knowing that you're not contaminating other individuals and that you are yourself healthy. If there's nothing further, at this time we don't have any executive session. We move on to agenda item number 22, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn with a comment? Second.
I got a motion and a second. Further discussion? Commissioner Haggard.
I wish, since this is your last meeting, we're gonna have no more meetings.
I don't think
January 11th. Dang, I was gonna write up a big speech.
so.
I thought we had.
There we go. But here's what I want to say. It has been an honor to serve with you in the time that I've been on this commissioner's court. And I know that you and I have always this way, that way, but we walked out of here together. And you're a true patriot to the county of Beeville. And again, I appreciate everything that you've done for me. And, it's been, like I said, it's been an honor to serve with you.
Thank you, appreciate those words. And here again, I honestly thought we were gonna have one, the 28th.
Jamie, we don't have another one?
Well, we're gonna have to schedule one.
Because of Christmas.
Because of Christmas.
Oh, we might get one.
You might get one.
You might get one before.
We're not ready for you to be done.
No, and then I was gonna have accepted your resignation. I was gonna ask you to let me make the final, motion to adjourn. Also, on the last meeting. All right. Okay? So, yeah, hopefully we'll have another meeting, guys.
We'll figure
I can say
something.
my little spiel.
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. You keep
We have a
working on it.
judge that has many agendas.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Pick one, pick one.
Hey, I don't let conflict slow me down. We'll figure something out.
I'm sure we'll be looking at something.
You're gonna have to repeat what you just said, though.
If we have another, I'll hold mine back.
Okay, yes, sir.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Likewise.
All right.
In the event that we don't,
Oh.
I just want to say.
Oh, you.
Okay, we'll work it out, but, yeah, that's all. So, okay.
All right.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Oh, man, somebody's ready to go. All those in favor, please indicate by saying.
All right.
All opposed, motion passes without exception. We're adjourned. Thank you all for your patience.
Hey, we all?
Yeah.
You know, because that's like.
On the office.